Pierce Brosnan, who you know as the super cool, fancy James Bond, used to be the biggest star in Hollywood. Playing Agent 7 didn't just win him a big prize called a Golden Globe, it made him one of the top movie stars ever. But even with all the fame and the fancy red carpets, he had many years of hurt locked inside. Now at 72, Pierce finally told his story, pointing out 5 people he feels really hurt him, people he still feels very upset about. One friend was mean to him just to become famous. One of his sons made choices that broke his heart. And the person who finished his time as Bond was, weirdly, the very same person who first made him a huge legend. The first person who let him down was Daniel Craig, the man who took his shiny crown. It seems crazy to think that Pierce Brosnan would be mad at the idea of James Bond, the job that made him a worldwide star. But under the fancy suit and the great smile, there is a name that still makes him angry. Daniel Craig, the actor who grabbed the 7 role that Pierce had kept safe for many years. When they announced that Craig would be the new Bond in 2005, Pierce didn't watch happily. He watched as a person who was silently being scrubbed out of his own history. After his movie Die Another Day made tons of money in 2002 and became the movie that earned the most money for Bond at that time, Pierce really thought he would definitely come back for the next one, Bond 21. He was in great shape, people loved him, and he was even giving ideas for the new story. Then came a phone call that changed everything. It lasted only 47 seconds. "You were a wonderful James Bond, thank you very much, goodbye." 10 years of being a good worker ended in less than a minute. The people behind that cold goodbye were the movie bosses, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson. But it was the public announcement of Daniel Craig that turned his private sadness into a very public embarrassment. In a talk with The Guardian, Pierce remembered, "I was totally shocked. I thought we were getting ready to make Bond 21, and then suddenly they took the carpet right out from under me." It showed a man who felt tossed aside like an old toy that wasn't needed anymore. Daniel Craig became the new face of the Bond movies, but he never once talked to the man who had made it easy for him. When Craig got mean comments online for being too blonde and not Bond enough, Pierce didn't say anything bad. Then came the movie Casino Royale in 2006. Its huge success only made his pain worse. Watching the very movie series he had made popular again now celebrate another man's ideas felt like a terrible letdown right in front of everyone. Pierce never said bad things about Craig in public. In fact, he even spoke nicely about him in later chats, but behind every polite word was a hidden hurt. Pierce later called it the silent kill. That name says it all. The quiet end of his Bond time without anyone even firing a gun. The second person is Christopher Brosnan, the son he could not rescue. Out of all the people linked to Pierce's sadness, one hurt him more than any problem from Hollywood. His son, Christopher Brosnan. This wasn't about fame or movie business fights. It was about family, love, and the sadness of a dad watching his child slowly fall apart. The problem started long before the newspapers began printing the word junkie next to his son's name. When Pierce married the actress Cassandra Harris in 1980, he also became a father to her 2 kids, Charlotte and Christopher. After their first father, the actor Dermot Harris, passed away, Pierce legally adopted them as his own children. Christopher loved him. They went on holidays together, spent time on movie sets, shared laughs, and had a very strong connection. But everything changed in 1991 when Cassandra lost her fight with ovarian cancer. Her death was the beginning of a dark time that would swallow up Christopher and leave Pierce with a sorrow that no fame or money could ever fix. Pierce Brosnan buried the person he loved the most, and with her gone, his son Christopher lost the only person who had ever kept him steady. What happened next was a slow and painful journey downward. Christopher tried to stay close to his dad's world, working behind the scenes on the Bond movies Tomorrow Never Dies and The World Is Not Enough, but his grief soon took over. In 1996, he had to pay a fine for driving drunk. A year later, he was put in jail for something else. Then came the really dark years. London's nightclubs, the haze of a drug called GHB, and the slide into addiction that pulled him further and further away from the man who had raised him. Pierce never gave up trying. He paid for lawyers, doctors, and lots of different places for treatment, but nothing seemed to help. He would later say, "I hate what this world did to him. I hate that I couldn't stop it." That one sentence tells you everything. It wasn't hatred for his son, but for the helpless. The feeling that ruined both of them. By 2024, Christopher had disappeared again. He was only seen once, looking thin, pale, and tired outside a grocery store in London. Number 3, Timothy Dalton, the friend who took the big opportunity he was supposed to get. You wouldn't think Pierce Brosnan would be angry at a friend. But in this case, it was Timothy Dalton, the man who, without meaning to, stepped into the role that was supposed to change Pierce's whole life. The letdown wasn't loud or public. It was gentle, respectful, and completely heartbreaking. In 1986, Pierce was about to get his biggest wish. The movie boss, Albert Cubby Broccoli, had already chosen him to be the next James Bond. Even Ian Fleming's wife herself said Pierce was the perfect real-life version of Seven. Everything pointed to this being his destiny. But just as he was getting measured for his Bond suit, something stopped him. The TV channel NBC decided to bring back Remington Steele, the TV show that had made him famous, and his contract meant he couldn't leave. Within days, the Bond job was gone. Meanwhile, Timothy Dalton, who had always been the second choice, was waiting and ready. And when the door opened, he walked right in without a second thought. To the public, it looked like a smooth handover between two actors. But behind the scenes, it felt like a knife in the heart. Pierce stayed calm at press events, smiling for the cameras, but people close to him said he watched the movie The Living Daylights with a fake smile and eyes full of sadness. The worst part was when it happened. His dream had been right there, only to slip away in front of his face. While Timothy Dalton was stepping into the spotlight as the new James Bond in 1987, Pierce Brosnan was going through his darkest time. His wife, the actress Cassandra Harris, the very woman who had first introduced him to the movie boss Cubby Broccoli years before, was battling ovarian cancer. Losing the Bond role wasn't just a career problem. To Pierce, it felt like he had let down the woman who believed in him the most. Later, he thought about it quietly. I had to keep smiling through it. The words sound peaceful, but they carry the heavy weight of sadness and anger he held inside. And when he finally did become Bond in 1995, the win didn't feel like a huge success anymore. It felt empty, overshadowed by everything he had lost along the way. Number 4, Barbara Broccoli, the Queen producer who got rid of him. For Pierce Brosnan, Barbara Broccoli wasn't just a producer boss. She was supposed to be like family. She was the daughter of the famous Bond boss Albert Cubby Broccoli, and Barbara had promised things like keeping things going, being loyal, and doing things right, things Pierce respected a lot. Instead, she became the one who ended his time as Bond with one quick, cold phone call. In the early 2000s, Pierce was super famous all over the world. His movies GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, The World Is Not Enough, and Die Another Day hadn't just made the Seven movies popular again, but had earned over $1.44 billion globally. Everything pointed to a fifth movie. Pierce believed it was just a matter of time. But while he was on holiday in the Bahamas, the call came not from Barbara herself, but from one of the other producers. You were a great James Bond. Thank you very much. Goodbye, 47 seconds. That was all it took to end 10 years of being loyal and close the curtains on the man who had once saved James Bond from fading away. That was how a whole decade of commitment finished. Behind that short message was Barbara Broccoli, the powerful movie boss who wanted a younger, tougher Bond to start the movie series over again. According to people who worked at Pinewood Studios, Barbara and her co-producer Michael G. Wilson had already started quietly auditioning new people months before Pierce was even told. He thought they were family, one crew member later said, but they were quietly cutting him out. Pierce would later admit in a talk with Esquire, "It was totally shocking. I thought we were making Bond 21, then suddenly it was over." He never actually said Barbara's name, but his voice told the story. The friendly feelings he once had for the Broccoli family had changed into polite distance, a quiet sign of the letdown that still hung around his words. Number 5, Meryl Streep, the amazing actress who made him very unhappy. To everyone else, getting to work with Meryl Streep sounded like a dream come true. But for Pierce Brosnan, it turned into one of the most awkward times of his whole career. Despite the happy songs of Mamma Mia and the sunny, charming feel of Grease, the movie set was definitely not the perfect place it seemed to be. When filming started in 2007, Pierce hoped the movie would bring some happiness back into his life. Still hurting from Cassandra's death, he wanted something that would help him heal, something cheerful. Instead, he found himself in a world where Muriel's need for perfection ruled everything. Crew members later recalled how she controlled every practice, every camera angle, even how fast every song was sung. They described her as a big rush of genius and confusion. Pierce tried hard to fit in, but the difference between them was easy to see. Her fierce energy didn't match his calm, quiet style. He liked people working together in a relaxed way. She led the set like a bossy commander. Reports from the set said she was not friendly, demanding, and sometimes spoke harshly to the crew members. Pierce, who is known for being kind and respectful, didn't like seeing people treated that way. The actress Christine Baranski suggested years later that one very famous co-star had made filming difficult, and fans immediately guessed who she meant. Pierce never confirmed it, but his silence said a lot. He missed several events for promoting the movie and avoided talking about Mamma Mia. For months, what was supposed to be a fun musical time had turned into a battleground of huge egos and tiredness. Pierce always admired Meryl Streep's amazing talent. Who wouldn't? But he never liked how she did things. In his mind, she had turned happiness into total control. So which of these 5 times he was let down hit you the hardest? The friend who took his big chance, the son he couldn't save, or the famous people who turned against him? Tell us what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little notification bell because the next story will show you a side of Hollywood you have absolutely never seen before. Pierce Brosnan, who was born on May 16, 1953 in a place called Drogheda, Ireland, is one of the most loved actors in movies worldwide. He is famous for his job as the fancy and strong spy James Bond. His life is a journey from the sadness of a poor childhood to the very top of fame, mixed with really sad things and deep losses that have made him the person he is today. When he was a little boy, Pierce grew up without a complete family. His father, Thomas Brosnan, left when he was just a baby, and his mother, May, had to go to London to work as a nurse to earn money. Young Pierce lived with his grandparents and other family in a place called Navan, County Meath. He once said that he had no father, no mother, and no direction in his life. But it was that feeling of being alone that made him so determined to beat all his problems. Pierce first studied painting in London because he dreamed of becoming an artist. But his love for acting led him to the Drama Centre London, where he learned how to act properly, the start of his amazing career. After school, Pierce joined the York Theatre Royal and started his professional acting life. He had small parts in movies like The Long Good Friday 1980 and The Mirror Cracked 1980. But his big chance came in 1982 when he moved to America and was chosen for the main role in the NBC TV show Remington Steele. With his look as a clever, fancy, and exciting gentleman, Pierce Brosnan quickly became a favorite on the small screen, and his name began to spread everywhere. His success on TV paved the way for Pierce Brosnan to move into Hollywood movies. His biggest wish to become James Bond almost came true in 1986 when the legendary movie boss Albert "Cubby" Broccoli chose him as the new Seven. However, his work contract with NBC for Remington Steele stopped him from taking the role, and the opportunity went to Timothy Dalton. It was a painful moment, especially since at the time his wife, the actress Cassandra Harris, who had starred in the Bond movie For Your Eyes Only, was fighting ovarian cancer. Pierce once said, "I had to smile and pretend I was okay. Inside, I was falling apart." After Cassandra sadly died in 1991, Pierce was close to breaking down, but luck opened the door again. In 1995, he officially became James Bond in the movie GoldenEye. The film didn't just make the Seven brand popular again, but also made Pierce a worldwide superstar. Over 4 movies, GoldenEye 1995, Tomorrow Never Dies 1997, The World Is Not Enough 1999, and Die Another Day 2002, he made the famous spy his own with charm, funny moments, and a cool personality. His movies earned over $1.44 billion around the world, making Pierce one of the most successful Bonds in movie history. However, behind all the greatness were wounds that only he truly understood. After Die Another Day, Pierce was sure he would keep going with a fifth film. He was still very popular, people loved him, and he was even giving ideas for a new story. But then, while on holiday in the Bahamas, he got a cold phone call that lasted only 47 seconds. "You were a great James Bond, thank you very much, goodbye." That was how 10 years of hard work ended. Behind the call were two powerful bosses, Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, who had chosen to swap him out for Daniel Craig. Pierce didn't say their names, but later WH. In talking to The Guardian, he quietly said, "I was totally shocked. I thought we were making Bond 21 and then all of a sudden it was gone." After taking off the Seven suit, Pierce refused to let that sad time stop him. He kept showing his talent through many different roles, from the clever gentleman in the Thomas Crown Affair 1999 to the tired killer in The Matador 2005, which got him a nomination for a Golden Globe, to the emotional father in Mamma Mia 2008 and its sequel in 2018. He has also starred in action movies like The November Man 2014, The Foreigner 2017 with Jackie Chan, and most recently as Dr. Fate in the big DC superhero movie Black Adam 2022. Pierce is not just an actor. He is also a producer with his own company called Irish Dream Time, which he started with a partner named Beau St. Clair. Through this company, he has helped make many films like The Match, The Nephew, or It, showing his love for art and his wish to be in charge of his creative work. In his personal life, Pierce Brosnan was a very dedicated family man. He was married to Cassandra Harris from 1980 until she died in 1991 and adopted her two kids, Charlotte and Christopher. He later married the writer Keely Shea Smith in 2001 and had two more sons, Dylan and Paris. Even though he has a peaceful life with Kaylee, Pierce has suffered many losses. His daughter Charlotte died in 2013 from ovarian cancer just like her mother, and his son Christopher fell into drug problems. Pierce once admitted that he hated the world for turning his son into that and hated himself for not being able to stop it. Outside of movies, Pierce is a big lover of art and nature. He paints to let out his feelings, has art shows, and gives the money he makes to charities. He and his wife actively help groups that protect the environment, like NRDC and Oceanana, helping to teach people about climate change and saving the ocean. Looking back, Pierce Brosnan's life is a story of never giving up, of bouncing back after sad times. From an orphan boy in Ireland, he became a movie legend for the whole world, a symbol of being elegant, never quitting, and being a good person. Even though he has felt lonely, let down, and the pain of loss, he still stays calm, smart, and confident in life. At over 70 years old, Pierce Brosnan is still regularly working in art, still painting, still loving, and still helping others. James Bond might be the job that made him famous, but it is the real person, calm, deep, and full of emotion, that has made people love him for many decades. For Pierce Brosnan, the greatness has never just been about being famous, but about how he lives, loves, and recovers from every sad moment. As he once said himself, "Life is not something you have to figure out, but something you have to feel."